In this video, I'm going to be able to correlate how Prometheus in Greek myth, who was punished by Zeus, chained to the wall, got his liver eaten out, it would grow back, the liver would get eaten out. It was this painful, repeated process, is going to be the same thing as when Eve is told that her punishment is to have increasing pain in childbirth. Same thing. Let's take a look at that in this video. Hi, my name is Dan Paulson. I hope this video is more fun than my usual ones. I'm doing something that's a little bit different. So in this template, the sequence of human life that I'm talking about, that I'm finding that all myth and religions are nested upon, there are elements within the stories that show you what the template parts are. In this case, what I'm specifically going to cover is the cycles of pain. This is one that shows up predominantly in the material. It was something that has not been identified previously that I've seen anyone do. The cycle of pain is the reason we stop living the kind of life we're living and turn inward and start looking for self-healing. We've had it. We're done. We're turning inward and we're doing something different. But we do so because we are tired of cycles of pain. And everybody gets to the stage of cycles of pain. They might not, it might be just worry, angst. Typically, it is how someone lives their life. It might be something that's triggering out. It might be, and typically this is what it is, we start out kind of happy in life, but as life goes on, we accumulate so much stuff that we're living continuously in this residual of the things that we're hanging on to in our minds, which is exactly right. We have become products of that. The Buddha teaches us that. There's nothing new there. That's kind of plain language. We're going to get to it. At any rate, okay, what I'm going to do in this video is just go to different teachings and show the cycles of pain and how they're held. That'll be fun. There's different styles. As I go through this, I want it to be kind of quick and go along, so I don't want to identify a lot of stuff as I go along. You know, if I'm going to read something from the Buddha, I'll just let you know right now I'm using the Dhammapada, the Mueller translation. I'm going to be pulling from the Stephen Mitchell translation of the Tao Te Ching. I'm going to be pulling from the NSRV Bible translation for Moses and Jesus works. The Timothy J. Stephanie for the Enuma Elish, the Babylonian creation myth. And then just general, I'm going to kind of generally cover the Greek myth is too big, so I just want to get to the part where the cyclical pain is there. I might have to set it up a little bit because I don't know how much everybody is familiar with Greek mythology. I am not great with it, but I recognize what is there. Before moving on, let's take a look at the template here. This is the template of a human life sequence. This is from us at birth all the way up to the point that we just have decided we've had it in life. It's kind of the steps of what happens along the way. And for anybody who hasn't seen my work before or understand what this is, I derived this list 1 through 14 from creation story in the Bible, from creation all the way up to the flood. At step number 7 is a point where we are happy kids in the Bible. That would be in the Garden of Eden, naked, unashamed. We have not yet experienced life. 8 up there is when we judge life. But then we see there's something that happens, that cyclical pain emerges as a result. I've got that in light blue up there. You can see where that cyclical pain is. And then that is basically the first part of the template. This is the human life sequence up to the point where anybody might get to that does not decide to turn inward and self-heal. However, if one does decide to turn in and self-heal, this next template comes online. This is a very common one. This is the one we see all over the place. Stories upon stories upon stories are built upon this. The first one is creation. You can't have creation over and over again, but you could have monomyths over and over again. And what we have right here is, I put up there, the stories are separately traveling by word of mouth. They were back then. So as you're getting a story coming to you, it's going to have that cause and effect and the cycles of pain it's going to be kind of preloaded in the front of the story. So when you see those things in there, you know that, oh, this is one of those I'm supposed to interpret. And you know what? Have you ever read the Bible and thought, boy, all of these start with 3s and 7s and goofy stuff all of the time that seems so common, and there's so many 40s and things like that. That's what we're seeing. The 7s and the 3s tie back to 7 right here. The story template sequence there. And you see it's right up front. There's going to be a selected person. There's going to be cause and effect. There's cycles of pain. There's a few things that are going to happen right there, but that's right up front. Keep that in mind, the cycles of pain. Now, what we're going to see here is a couple of different ways that they're holding that in the teaching. Not everything is a story. Sometimes it's like some of it is just instructions. Like in Taoism or Buddhism, it's not an adventure story. It's just personal instructions. Greek myth is one style, but that's kind of a big story style that can come in different forms. Implied, that is where it's much shorter. I've got a couple that we're going to cover. Caught in desire, like a wheel. Buddha, pain follows like a wheel. I've got a Jesus one in there. Your judgment will be likewise. We'll go through these, and then we've got as we get down into repeating events, repeating story sequences. And in the Bible, we get plagues. In Job, he's getting multiple afflictions. In the Enuma Elish, we're going to get Lady Huber. And I'm going to save that one till the last for a good reason. We'll see when we get there. Basically, what this is going to be teaching us is that we are hurting because of cause and effect. What is planted in one's garden grows back in season. Or the emotional state of the memory that we're holding is what the charge is around and is going to continue to emerge. That is the core. Now, how do they make this? What they have to do is create a story on this template or a teaching and put that in there that makes you think about it. You have to figure out what it is. So let's go ahead and take a look. This one's from the Buddha, and it's actually very close to plain language. It's easy to understand this one. And all of the other ones are going to mean the same thing, despite the fact that they're going to be very much more obscure. This one provides us a little additional insight. All that we are is the result of what we have thought. It is founded on our thoughts. It is made up of our thoughts. Okay, let's stop right there and talk about that. What he's saying right there is that we are products of our mental experiences, that when we're born on this planet, we don't have any. We have not had experiences in life. But where we come from and how we experience life and how we've had to deal with life and how we've judged life is what we become as we live life. Okay? All that we are is the result of what we have thought. It is founded on our thoughts. It is made up of our thoughts. We are mental products of our life experiences, the way we see them, the way we view them, and the way we judge them. Now, that's not in any way, shape, or form to say that we're not individual entities having individual experiences. We certainly are. But the experiences that we're having are locked into or framed within what we continue to maintain as our life experiences up here. Life continues to unfold in a manner that we fit with because we just fit there. It's important to understand a number of things, that originally in life we're not aware of that we're waking up to that. So that's an important thing to note as a part of this. Not everybody realizes that. I mean, they're living through their experiences going, no, I'm not. I'm living through what is happening out there, not realizing that we're all a conglomerate here that fit together. And the only way to stop having those experiences is to change what is up here because we're fitting. That is what is important to understand. And then we continue to have life experiences as a result. I'll get to that part. If a man speaks or acts with an evil thought, pain follows him as the wheel follows the foot of the ox that draws the carriage. All right, if I could update anything in this, it would be to change man into person. If a person speaks or acts with an evil thought, pain follows them as the wheel follows the ox that draws the carriage. It's not just about man. It's about any conscious. It's about any person. It's about any life experience. Any person who speaks or acts with an evil thought. Now, this does not mean that we have been evil, and that's what makes it difficult for this. That's at a very superficial level. We read those and go, yep, that's not about me. I'm not there. We're not interacting with the material because we're afraid of the verbiage. The verbiage, however, is analogous verbiage. It doesn't mean that I have acted. I mean, there's a point in time what evil does not mean evil. What evil means is what is evil to me, what is hurting my life, what is hurting my life experience. It is not something that I did to somebody else that is evil. I'm living life and I'm having issues that continue to hurt me. That's evil. Now, I got to be careful. That's not to say that there are people who feel guilt because they have done something that is hurtful and evil, and they have got to go. So there can be a part of it there. The important thing here is to understand that it was a physical act that caused the problem, and the problem that exists now is based in a mental level. It is based in a fear and a shame and a hurt in something somehow not resolved. That is what the evil is. The unresolved, what we want to shy away from, remain ignorant of, hide away from. And those are terms we come to on our own by looking at our own life. It's a very personal path. It goes on here to say, if a man speaks or acts with that evil thought, okay, we've got something bad inside. Pain follows him. So we've got hurt now following as the wheel. The wheel goes around and around, cycles, follows the foot of the ox that draws the carriage. The foot of the ox that draws the carriage represents myself going through life. I'm drawing my carriage through life. My foot moves along, and as I move along, pain follows in the wheel. So right there is pretty plain language, cyclical pain, based on the idea that something is being held inside of my mind that is hurting. Plain language from Buddha. Very, very close. Let's see what Lao Tzu says. Caught in desire, you see only the manifestations. Okay, we have to know these are really it's at the stored level of mind. The subconscious is where these are playing out. So the things that I experience, I'm hanging on to things. I'm feeling want. I'm feeling desire. I'm feeling pain, hurt, different things like that. And as long as I hold on to those, that is what they're referring to as, in this case, it doesn't quite sound right either. Caught in desire. The other one was caught in sin. This one says caught in desire. You might say, well, I'm not sinning and I'm not desiring. I don't get it. When in both cases, they're analogous terms that kind of make you maybe hold on close, but you don't really apply them. You don't think it's about you until you realize at what level it is. It's not at a conscious level. It's not at a physical level. That's how we experience life. But the issue is what is happening at a deeper level. The things that we're hanging on to, we don't really desire them any more than it wasn't. It might not be a sin. It's like, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Whatever it is that we're holding on to is what we continue to see. And what does it say here? Caught in desire, you see only the manifestations. That is a cyclical thing. Now you imply that when there's not a wheel there, you imply, because when does it occur? As long as you're caught in desire, as long as it's there, you're going to continue to see the manifestations. So you imply the cycles right there, and you know it means the same thing. Here's another one from Lao Tzu. We join spokes in a wheel, but it is the central whole that makes the wagon move. Now, this one sounds a little bit more like cycles, doesn't it? We become the wheel. Building the wheel means living life, experiencing life. We become the wheel as we experience life. We're adding the spokes, all of that kind of stuff is the implication here. There's a few other ones in this area about building a house in a clay pot that mean the same. But in this case, we see the idea that there's cycles because it's a wheel, and that what is in the hub, what is in the center, what is in the middle of everything is how it moves in life. Okay, again, sometimes the wheel is obvious and sometimes not. The cycles are not always obvious. You have to look a little bit deeper or imply what is going on, thinking it through. Let's move ahead into something that we have right here from Jesus. And do not judge, and you will not be judged. That's from the book of Luke. Okay, let's think about that for a minute, because people think, well, that just means don't judge people, but everybody does anyway. And if you don't judge anybody, you still get judged. So you look at it and go, what does that even mean? You're not supposed to judge people. Okay, judging is calling, naming. What judging is taking physical things in life and holding a mental, emotional connection to them. And because of that emotional, mental connection, there's going to be a repeat of something going on. So as long as you are judging right here, when you're judging at that level, again, remember, this is a very deep level, right at it's not what you're consciously doing. It is something that you are holding at a deep level. You have had life experiences. Remember, Buddha, all that we are is the result of what we have thought. We have become those experiences. Whatever we judge, it says, do not judge and you will not be judged. But what happens? We do judge and we get judged. That is the other side of that. So as long as we're holding on to things, we're going to continue to see a repeat of it. And how often? As long as we're judging. So we imply the cycles right here, and it's still based in that same mental process, simply held in different terms. Let's go look at Moses in Genesis. To the woman, he said, I will greatly increase your pangs in childbearing. In pain, you shall bring forth children. All right, puzzles, codes. They're doing something in Jewish material where they're using a mental hierarchy, the consciousness, the subconscious, and then what we hold inside and how that works in life, with the higher being as well in there. To the woman, this is the higher self talking. This is basically God setting things up in the beginning. This is right after first sin. So the woman is the inner self. Childbearing is analogous. That does not mean I am a woman giving birth. That's ridiculous. What it means is that everybody's inner being, whenever it gives offspring, whenever it emerges, whenever the fruits from the garden emerge or the thistles, we get triggered. This stuff comes out, the pangs in childbearing. We have had an event happen that creates something inside of us that is now hurtful. And whenever it emerges, it's going to be hurtful. Increase your pangs. As time goes on, it gets worse and worse. In pain you shall bring forth children. But this isn't about the physical world. Again, when you play it out in the psyche, shift everything there, you go, all of these are analogous terms, and children represent the offspring of my experience, and giving birth to them means that I got triggered and they're emerging again, the same as coming out from the garden or something like that. And that's the inner being. So this is anybody's inner being right there. Cycles of pain. Okay. Let's take a look at what we've accomplished so far. The pain cycles, the result of cause and effect, mental processes. This stage occurs within the first few steps of any template sequence and represents our own reason to start the inward healing journey. What we just did is the implied right there. If we zoom in on that, we did our Lao Tzu, caught in desire like a wheel. Buddha, the pain follows like a wheel. Jesus, the judgment is, whatever you judge is going to come back to you. Moses, pain in childbirth. All of those are analogous, but if you look at them, you realize they're holding a cycle of something. Something continually returns, and if it's not super evident that it's a cycle like a wheel, you can still imply it. You could have it something that doesn't sound like a cycle like a wheel, but it's not implied. A tree that grows up and then gets cut down and grows up again and then gets cut down until it's pulled out by the root is also representing a cycle. To everything, there is a season. Those are cycles. Everything emerges whenever it emerges. Just look at your life and look at what happens and look at what occurs based on what. That's what we're trying to hook in with here. That's what this template is based on. All right, let's get into the Greek myth examples, and they get a little bit thicker. There's a couple of other things going on. They're all actually pretty thick. Honestly, the Jewish material is equally dense. Okay, Prometheus was a god that stole fire from Olympus and gave it to humans. So the myth goes, which is a weird thing. There's other parts of it that maybe he created humanity. If you look through Greek myth and creation, the thing is that humans at this point in time were very primitive. And after getting fire, they became advanced. That's what Prometheus got punished for, because he was giving fire. Zeus took it back and but he gave it to him again anyway. So here we have humans beginning now to advance. And so the punishment was he got chained to a cliff, and an eagle would eat out his liver. It was very painful, but the liver would grow back. The Greeks thought the liver was the seat of emotion. So they've got this liver being eaten out, this emotional distress happening, and then it grows back. The liver gets eaten out again. He can't escape. He can't move from it. So there's a cycle of pain right there. Coincidentally, what that is in Greek myth, early on at that stage, represents the same thing as Adam and Eve in the garden, when humans, in this case, that were ignorant, represents Adam and Eve naked and not ashamed in the Garden of Eden. They were uncovered. And then once they sin and get covered and move on, that's when the punishment happens. What do we have here? Once humans begin to advance, once they go from their primitive early stage to their advanced stage, that is when the punishment happens. So giving them fire was actually a bad thing. So you can see how the analogs can really twist up and just make it, they don't sound anything alike. You see the cycle of pain, and then you figure out what's doing. You can make it sound like a bad thing or a good thing. We're going to get that when we get to the plagues up ahead right away. Okay, that's Prometheus. You see the cycle of pain right there. And we don't have to go into the reasons why even, but you can just see that the liver getting eaten out, growing back, that's a cycle of pain right there. That's pretty spot on. All right, Sisyphus, the boulder. Let me just read this right here. This is from Wikipedia. It's fine. He was a devious tyrant who killed visitors to show off his power. This violation of the sacred hospitality tradition greatly angered the gods. They punished him for trickery of others, including his cheating death twice. The gods forced him to roll an immense boulder up a hill, only for it to roll back down every time it neared the top, repeating this action for an eternity. Okay, so there we have a punishment that is a repeated action that can't be resolved. What is that? That's a cycle of pain. It's happening, and it's after a punishment. I'm not going to get into interpretation of the story. What we see there is an element that is a cycle of pain. Let's grab one more. This one is from the Argonautica, and it is from Phineas. Phineas was a seer. Phineas was an early part of ourselves. Phineas knew what to do, but Phineas lost it. Phineas got punished, so he lost his sight. That's a part of us that is not moving on in the story. So Phineas represents that. But the cycle of pain is this. Every day, Phineas gets food. He's brought food. He's blind. He can't care for himself anymore, so he's being cared for. But when his food comes, as soon as his food shows up, there's these creatures called harpies, Zeus's hounds. They're these horrible creatures that can fly. They've got human heads on them. They put off this very bad stench. And as soon as Phineas gets his food, which would represent what? This is a part of me. I want to learn. I want to have something new. I want to figure things out. Eating in the spiritual world means resolving, consuming, figuring out, taking in. Of course, you can eat bad stuff too. You can consume rubbish all day long. Turn off the media. Stop consuming rubbish. Okay, in this case, what we have is Phineas wants to eat, but every day when he's brought his food, these creatures, they eat it, they defile it. He's left with nothing, scraps, something that is so putrid it's not edible every day, every day. So Phineas is starving. This is a cyclical pain. Okay, let's just go back and take a look at our list and see where we are. I've covered the first couple of them. Remembering now that this stage occurs, this is a stage in a template, a sequence of events for a human life. And at this part right here, this stage occurs within the first few steps of any template sequence and represents our own reason to start the inward healing process. We've just gotten tired of our life and said, oh my God, I've got to do something about it, turn inward. We're going to begin facing things that most people cannot. All right, so what have we got here then? We've got Prometheus, liver getting eaten out, Sisyphus, the boulder, Phineas, the harpies. Implied, we got Lao Tzu, caught in desire. You see only the manifestations. We are like a wheel, that the inside of the hub is what determines the rotation. Buddha, we are a product of all that we have thought, and pain follows us like a wheel that follows the foot of the ox that draws the carriage. Jesus, the judgment that you have will be likewise meted back. All of these are at a memory level. It is where your memory of an event and the emotional state of that reside. That is where this judgment resides. Your judgment will be likewise meted back. We continue to get that cyclical thing. And then Moses, our pain in all childbirth, which actually continues getting worse and worse. How could that be? All right. That means that things act out of us. Now, what do we have left or next here then? We've got our repeating events. It's another style. I'm going to grab from the Bible here. Abram is going to have plagues. Moses plagues. Job has many afflictions. Enuma Elish has Lady Huber. We'll get there. Okay, let's get on to Abram and plagues. All right, this happens right after God calls Abram. They end up going to Egypt because they were put in a land where there's a famine, there's an emptiness there, so they're starting off in the void, which is actually a good place. They get there, they end up, Sarai ends up marrying Pharaoh, and Abram gets all kinds of goods for it, but what happens here is the Lord afflicted Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. So this is a different style. I don't know if you're going to recognize this. The Abram and Sarai is... I am Abram, and my inner being is Sarai. Sarai taking things on like that represents that we have had life experiences now. The plagues are there as a result, though, that shows the cyclical pain, and then we get sent away. So this is going to fit on the template in the same place. I'm not going to bring up Exodus and do it because there's 10 plagues. It became suddenly very huge. It went from here. You can see that this was a kind of the precursor to the Egypt and Pharaoh and plague story. And then later on, it gets into a really big one. Remembering that the original Genesis story is much older, well, probably quite a bit older than Exodus. You would have to think so. The Genesis reads a lot like the Enuma Elish when you interpret it. Exodus reads a lot like Greek myth. They're a lot different. So what I see in Genesis with Abram being the called person and having to escape Moses is very small scale compared to when you get to Exodus. The idea, though, is that the plagues continue to show that cyclical pain. Now, when we get to Job, same thing. You know the story, that there's all kinds of things that happen. He loses his family, loses everything, loses his health eventually, that there's this cycle of things that continue to happen. So those are held in the story. They sound like things that are really happening. God is punishing. God is doing something. God is... But what it's doing on the template right up front there, where are these plagues happening? When right in the beginning of the story, the plagues start right off as Moses, myself, wants to leave Egypt. All of them represent leaving the past behind, wanting to leave, having cyclical issues as a result of the things that I'm hanging on to. Now, the final one that I want to do is the Babylonian Enuma Elish. This is the oldest one that I'm aware of. This is on tablet 3, and this is how it reads. There is a point actually where, let me build it up a little bit better. So tablet 3 is where this is. Tablet 1 and tablet 2, we have creation going all the way up to, this is building up to its version of we need a flood. We've got problems. We've got things happening. So where this picks up in the story sounds like there's grumbling and fuming. There's issues going on. There's going to be this, you want to come and take me? Well, I'll get you back. This represents our early self not wanting to be taken over by the newer self, and the newer self saying, yeah, I can't continue to live my life this way. Now, cyclical pain, you've got to look at it with a very broad-based sort of a thinking. It's leaving your beginnings. It's leaving your past. It's leaving the pain. It's leaving the hurt. It's leaving the shame. It's leaving environments. It could be leaving all manner of things. Now we struggle later on. I've done all of that. Now I'm struggling. Now I've got an alcohol addiction. I can't leave that behind. I've got drugs. I've got something. Somehow my life, I've got something that I'm tangled up in, wanted, that I'm hooked into because life is just habitual. And all of that would be cyclical pain. So what is happening, though, in the cyclical pain is they called together a council of war to consider battle plans. Lady Huber in the story seems to represent that there's a part of us that like has all the weaponry, when we act out and scream and yell, that is Lady Huber right there. That's who's taking over. That's not the one who's in charge, but at that moment of screaming and yelling and acting out, that we are Lady Huber then. It seems to be. Lady Huber made all, produced an unfailing weapon. She brought big snakes with piercing teeth and vicious fangs. Their bodies she had infused with poison rather than blood, and she caused these raging dragons to emit deadly beams and to wear mantles of brilliance so that they were like gods. These beams are us screaming and yelling and acting out when we've had it, the people that just don't get a hold of their life experiences. Then the Lady Huber raised her voice, verbalizing the curse. Anyone who gazes at them will be stricken down with horror. Oh my gosh, they're scary. They will always raise up their bodies and never back down. Yeah, there's an insanity that goes there. A little bit later down here, there's something that says she conveyed to him the tablet of fate, clasping it at his chest. And this is whoever the earlier self is. You're the one that's going to be in charge. We get later into the tablet, same tablet, and it says, later, Lady Huber, who made all, produced an unfailing weapon. She brought big snakes with piercing teeth and vicious fangs. Their bodies she had infused with poison rather than blood. And she caused these raging dragons to emit deadly beams and to wear mantles of brilliance so that they were like gods. Then the Lady Huber raised her voice, verbalizing the curse. Anyone who gazes at them will be stricken down with horror. They will always raise up their bodies and never back down. So it's an exact word-for-word repeat. I have actually seen comment sections where people have read this, where people have complained about, you made a mistake in there. You've got something repeated. I recently, as I was Googling with this, was very dismayed. Somebody was reading myth and was kind of passing themselves off as an internet myth person who, when they read the Enuma Elish, actually made a comment in there that they've went ahead and made some corrections to the things in there and then eliminated the repeat. This came from clay tablets. Can you imagine that? Yeah, you got a paper jam or double feed or something like that. They're pressed into the clay for a reason. This is like the earliest form that I can see of repeating cycles of pain. That's the bad part of the story, but what they did is just identically repeat it. This is what, 5,000, 6,000 years ago. They're passing these around verbally to people, kids, wonderful stories. Here's how to live life. Here's things going on. Here it's easy to repeat. Here it's easy to remember. Make sure to say it twice because there's something going on in there. Okay, I don't want to go off on a tangent there. That was just something I saw recently that I think, you want to go as close to the original source as possible. Okay, let's wrap this up. Where did we end up right now? Okay, so here I've got it all, everything that we've done right here. Our pain cycles, again, the result of cause and effect. It's going to be right there with cause and effect, and cycles of pain somehow are part of the teaching, letting us know what it is that we are a part of. It's a mental process, things we're hanging on to. In Greek myth, we had Prometheus, liver eaten out. Sisyphus, boulder for eternity, roll it up and come down. Phineas, harpies eating his food every day. Every story has an element like that in there. We get to Lao Tzu, it's more simple. These are some implied, not all implied. Caught in desire, you realize the manifestation. You see only the manifestations. You see only things you hang on to. You have to imply that as long as you're caught in the desire, you're going to continue to see the manifestations. Period. It doesn't have to be more verbose than that. He's also got his like a wheel one that does kind of show you, cycle coming around. Buddha's pain follows like a wheel. Jesus, your judgment will be likewise meted back. In this case, it's implied again. What you're holding on to in your mind at the lowest level is going to continue to cycle back. It sounds like if you just keep your conscience straight, it's okay, but that's not the case. That's too shallow. It doesn't change anything. Moses, pain in all childbirth, which is going to continue. That is our inner being. We are going to continue. Every time that emerges from us, it's going to hurt. Abram, we've got different story style. Now what we've got is we've got to show this, and we've got plagues. There we go. It's pain between. Pharaoh represents our past or what we want to leave behind. Plagues represents continual pain that's happening right there until we leave it. Moses, plagues, same thing, just a lot bigger. Instead of telling it in a short period of time, you got a lot more people with more time. Make it a bigger story. And it is. It's a bigger story. Job has all of his afflictions, again, showing the cyclical. You see, there's just everywhere you go. It's like, well, there's a cycle of pain here along some step. And then the Enuma Elish I saved again for the earliest one because it's a little bit easier to reverse engineer what's going on when you see that repeat. You go, okay, yeah, they were the first ones that were doing the cycle of pain. They just did it by repeating the story instead of doing something different or having an element. There's all kinds of ways of doing it. It's a verbal puzzle. But you can see then, as you're looking at myth and religions, that there's going to be commonly shared components, chose person, a number of different elements. In this case, the cyclical pain is one that is very easy to see. It's actually the one that is the reason we go on the journey. We're just tired of our lives. What is that saying? That we have two lives. And the second one starts the moment we realize we've only got one life. We're at that point. We want to go do something. We want to interrupt this. But those are the cycles of pain being held on that template. And I just wanted to show that in this video. Hope that was fun and interesting and informative. Please feel free to add comments or ask any questions below. Let me know what you thought of the format of this one. I could do other elements, crossing thresholds, the calling, different things like that. We can make cross comparisons of these elements, as well as continue to collect up all of the analogs in Genesis, the big pile right there. Okay, take care. See you in the next video.